23 years old, born in Meru, raised in Nakuru, living and working in Thika, Kiambu County. I am a teacher for learners with special needs. I teach in Joytown Secondary for the physically handicapped, a school for learners who are physically handicapped. My area of specialization is biology and chemistry. And apart from it, apart from being in school, at times I find myself doing ministry. And my ministry, I do it in schools, I do it in church, whereby I go inspiring and motivating people on issues to do with disabilities. And part of my motivation is the story and the journey of my life, the journey of 33 good years. Yes, it has been a journey of ups and downs, but I appreciate that life to this moment. Okay, the journey began at 3 years when I got the first fracture. I was sleeping and I fell from the bed. And from there, I got a fracture of the clavicle, that is the collarbone. So after the fracture, that to a parent, it's just something normal, like a child could fall and break one of the limbs or any of the bone. So it didn't send any kind of issue or try to bring out that something is wrong. So after that, another time at the age of 4, I fell from a swing. I was a cheeky girl. I was swinging when I was in nursery school. So we were swinging, and after you swing for some time, you just jump over to a sawdust. So I did the same like any other child could do. And when I fell on the sawdust, I broke another clavicle. Still, that one did not send any signal because, yes, I fell. Another time, my mom was plaiting my hair. As she was plaiting my hair, when I went to bend my neck on this other side so that she could plait this other side, I had the snap of a bone, and there the third fracture was there, still on the clavicle. So that one was really funny because how could you just turn a neck after a long strain, then you break a collarbone? It went like that. When I was in class 1, now there I got a major fracture. It was the fracture of the long bone. I broke my leg when I was in school. In fact, it's another boy who stepped on me while they were playing football. A ball came, it kicked me, and as the boy was running to take it, came and stepped over me, and there the fracture began. And from there now, the fractures started becoming frequent. Any slight slip, a fracture. Any slight knocking, a fracture. For the 33 years, the fractures I can really count is approximately 19 fractures. The last one, I got it last year in October, and I just slipped on the street. I just found myself, I knocked over a small, like a bump on a street, and there I fell and the leg snapped. And so far, the management about these fractures, one, at the age of 10, the doctors are now say that this child has a condition we call Osteogenesis Imperfecta, meaning the bones, they are lacking enough calcium. Okay, we know that for those in chemistry, the calcium, they say it is hard but brittle, just like the glass. The glass is very hard, but once it falls, it breaks, meaning that is how my bones are. So we find that they are lacking enough calcium, but with the time, because I took a lot of calcium now, there's a lot of calcium deposited now. The bones have become so dense, and the magnitude of snapping is quite very easy. So with that, when I learned that I have that condition, I started becoming a very careful child. From the age of 10, I could not play any games, I could not run. Everything about me was so perfectly done and systematically. That is how I lived. But it was not easy. One, with the condition I'm having, I had a stunted growth. And I usually tell people that, yes, I'm short, but I usually don't say that my disability is because of the shortness. Because shortness does not define the disability, but the issues with my bone is what is defining the disability I'm having. So, growing up in an environment, I was a day scholar. So every morning and evening I would walk to school and back home. And when I'm going back home, I would pass through a market. That market, you'll find women, they're selling there. They are talking to me, they are talking about me. Some used to say I'm a genius, and they're talking openly and saying, this girl will not even reach 20 years. Geniuses, they die very early, and that's it. So I grew up with a mind that I'm just here for some few years on this earth, and I'm going to die quite early. So even going to school, I used to go to school because my parents have sent me to school. And I never cared. I never used to do personal studies. I used to do exam. Whatever came to my mind is what I used to do. But I never had personal study or trying much to achieve in education. But still, also I would go to hospital, spend months in hospital, 5 months at home. When I go back to school, I still perform. But I never used to read. Reason why I don't have a future. It was already on my mind. Then I had a very low self-esteem. The shortness, the fingers, my dentition, the teeth were all crisscrossed, and people would really talk ill about me. Some people also approached my parents, telling my parents, can we take this girl somewhere to be prayed for? We break up family bondage, those kind of stuff my parents have passed through. But good thing, my dad is a learned person, and for real, he understood what the child was going through. And again now, they are staunch Christians, and therefore they could not be deceived by all sorts of those issues that people used to discuss that really did not look like my condition was a natural condition. So I've lived with that. Low self-esteem. I became sickly at age of 12 because I really used to absorb and consume a lot of things that people used to talk about me, and they really affected me. So I got ulcers at the age of 12. I started having issues also with my eyesight at that time. Stressful. I used to be in and out of hospital because of the stomach issue. But later on in life, I came to high school. The high school I went there, still life was not conducive. It has been a journey of ups and downs. I remember there's one day that I was in Form 2. I opened school. Then the following day, early in the morning, we were to go for preps because we were expecting an exam the same day. So when I went to class, opening day, the desks are all over. So when I was looking for my desk, I was hit by a desk on the thigh, and there the leg snapped. Yesterday, my mom took me to school. Today, I'm being taken home, not even to hospital. So after healing, I went back to that school. life was not easy in a school of around 800 students, and you're the only person with an issue. So I felt that it's so unfair. I was giving up. I thought that, why am I really struggling with life and yet I'm going to die very soon? Like that. I started deteriorating in my studies. I used to come to in top 10. Now I started becoming top 20s. So after deteriorating in my academics, I felt no, I shouldn't go on. My dad started becoming so tough on me that I really need to perform. But myself, I had already started giving up in life. So I told him I want to repeat the class because I'd stayed at home more than a term. I've stayed after coming back to school, I'm on crutches. The school is so muddy, it's slippery, the paths are full of water, the washrooms are ever flooded. I didn't find myself very comfortable in that school. So I wanted to drop from school, but I didn't have a reason of dropping. So I started becoming stubborn. Told my dad I want to repeat the class. My dad told me, go and tell your class teacher. But in a way, I came to learn that my dad had communicated to the class teacher and told the class teacher, do not accept that request. So I went to my class teacher. My class teacher told me, you are in position 23 and you're saying to repeat. What about that one person who is in position 158? So I knew that it's not going to happen. So I went ahead, still just in school. I found I'm still dropping. Exam come, you do because see, they are forcing you to be in school and you're left with around 6 years to die. Why are you struggling? So that was my issue. One time I decided, no, I'm going to drop, or they need to take me out of that school because I was finding the school is not really a good school for me. So being an opening day tomorrow, I wrote a letter to my dad. We are under the same roof, but I wrote a letter to him. Then I sneaked into their bedroom and placed the letter under his pillow. So when we went to sleep, knowing tomorrow is an opening day, I knew he will read the letter at night. So tomorrow I'm not going to school. So the following day, he wakes up and he says he's the one who is taking me to school. So my rebelliousness was all cancelled out. So I was taken back to school. Then after some time, I was told, my parents have called me and they're saying I need to go for a clinic. And I was wondering, which clinic? My clinic is 2 months to come. How am I going for a clinic? So I went home, I found my dad, and my dad had come home because he used to work very far. So my dad asked me, if I take you to a special school, will you go there? I never had an idea what is a special school by then. I just said yes, because in the first place, I just wanted to be out of that school. But back in my mind, I was not to go to another school even to perform. I just wanted to pass time. These 20 years come and I'm dead. So I was taken yes to a special school, and when I landed to that school, that was my turning point in my life. I usually say it is a breakthrough of my life because I remember very well we reached the school at around 1 p.m. And when we were there at the waiting bay, the other students were going for lunch. And when they were going for lunch, we found that there were shorter students, shorter than me. Others were almost my waistline height. I would see students on wheelchairs. Others were so small on the wheelchair that you could even not see them. So from there, I got another perspective about life. I used to think just about me, that I'm the only person in this world who is like this. So when I thought that I'm the only person who is like this, but coming to that school, I found that there are other people who are having more challenges than me. And from there, my mind opened up. The school is Joytown Secondary School for the physically handicapped. And just to say, it is the same school that I'm teaching. I'm so glad that God gave me a chance to give back to that school, because it is a school that built my foundation. If only my mind was open before then, I think I would be very far. But from the time I landed to Joytown, my perspective about life, I took life very differently. And from that time, I think that is now the time I started living my life. Okay, about the relationship, it has. I've told you back then when I was small, we used to have to hear people talking. Some of our relatives, they would come and tell my mom that problem about the child of your child is originating from your family. Others are saying, no, it's from your dad's family. So there was that a bit wrangle, but me, I didn't care, because by the way, about my condition, I never used to care, but I knew there were those wrangles about this condition about Doreen. Yes, about when it comes to workplace, this is the best place I found. I feel that I'm at home, because my students, they understand me, and even my colleagues. But still, I've worked in other schools. In Kiambu, I've worked like 3 schools, and in Nairobi 1 school, and I've never found any challenge or rejection when it comes to working, because I think I'm an outgoing girl. I think I reached a point, and now I took my life as it is my life, it is my choice to be happy. So from that point, I started living my life, and I think I'm not affected by relationships when it comes to working. I do my work the best I can. Yeah. Well, I am a teacher by profession, but I would like to say that I was not meant to be a teacher, but I ended up becoming a teacher, and I ended up loving teaching. After I got my results for KCSE, I had applied for nursing. I had thought of becoming a nurse because most of my life I've spent in hospitals. I've interacted with nurses. I hear people talk about how nurses are harsh and those kind of things, but I think I used to get nurses in hospitals. I used to interact with nurses who really who molded my life, who touched my life in one or another, who are very friendly. And I used to think that when I grow up, I want to do this kind of job and give back to community through nursing. But after I got the results, I applied for nursing. But before then, you know the way a parent comes, a friend comes and asks my parent, which course has she been called to do? She says nursing, and there they asked her, are you sure your child can be able to do nursing? And from there, I went to a counselor. That counselor talked to me, and she asked me one critical question. That now you want to become a nurse. Yes, you are passionate about being a nurse. But what if, theoretically you will be good, but practically it will be a challenge to you. You're not really that strong enough. You're not used to movements. Then that counselor asked me, what if you're on duty? There comes a patient with cerebral malaria. That person is very huge. You need to handle that patient. You know the way they are aggressive, that kind of thing. And from there, I it was just like a blackout. Like, I've never thought it could be that bad. So the counselor gave me different examples, told me the way nurses, they need to push, what. Before you leave, you reach to a level of becoming a nurse who can just be a nurse in the office or doing little kind of activities, you'll have to pass through those tedious activities that a nurse has to. So I decided no. Then what other course would I do? I didn't have an idea. About becoming a teacher, it was an idea of my dad. She decided that this is the course you're going to do, because I'm trying to think of anything else, I can't think about it. So I ended up becoming a teacher. I've taught in different schools, and from there, the embrace I find in my colleagues, the embrace I find in my students. I think I'm so passionate about becoming a teacher. Now, I would say it's not easy also. Teaching, you up standing for long hours. There is movement from one class to another, like that. When it comes to co-curricular activities, there are activities that totally I cannot even dare, especially when it comes to sports. Yes, unless you put me on the recording desk. The rest, I don't want to be on the cheering squad, because when I was in high school, I got a fracture just because of jumping as a cheering, in a cheering squad. So sports, no, I cannot. But I am there to support my learners in sports. I try at times indoor games, but things like chess, Scrabble, those ones I help my students in that. But you find that any other tedious activity, it's a no. Then I'm also scared of just walking aimlessly in school. I walk when it is necessary. One, I avoid becoming tired. Another thing, when I walk, I am really careful where I'm stepping to avoid, you know, when you move, I cannot run. So when I'm moving, I'm scared of even sleeping. So that is the caution I take. But basically, since I've understood myself, I think the precautions I take, even in classroom when I find just a small paper on the floor, they know that I cannot enter a class with a paper on the floor, because if I step on that paper and I slip, that is an accident. So I've known how to live with the condition, how to relate with people, and I try as much as possible to be independent, because I don't want to be a burden to anybody, and therefore, with time, I've learned to appreciate my work and not to depend on anyone. Yeah. It's not once, it's not twice. At times, it comes a point that you don't want anybody to notice you have an issue. And that is why now the point of independence comes in. Because, you know, people will try to put you aside when they find that you have a challenge. Like, they think that if we involve you in this, you might get sick, you might fall, you see that kind of thing. So you try to avoid them noticing your challenges so that you may fit in them. For example, I used to be in an organization called Peace Ambassadors Kenya. And this was an organization that us as youths, we used to go preaching peace and keeping peace. And I remember I've gone for several activities with these young people. And I found myself one time we went for hiking in Mount Kenya, Njenge Hills. And I really didn't want them to find that this girl cannot do it. So when we were going up the hill, it was tedious. But I really tried as much as possible. But because we had police, they assisted me in one way or another. But when we were coming down hills now, it was so terrible. I remember I slept like twice, and it reached a point I slept and I felt I didn't and felt the pain was too much, but lucky enough that I had not fractured. I've gone even to Mount Elgon to do peacekeeping. We've walked 100 kilometers in the village for 3 days doing peace work. And I think because of the energy and the enthusiasm that I have, I really don't want this condition to put me in a situation whereby I'm not fitting in the society. I try as much as possible. When I get an opportunity to do something, I do it, whatever the repercussions will come later. So since I know this is what I'm not supposed to do, this is what I'm supposed to do, I do anything I can, but with a lot of caution.